Hello, welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz, also known as the Uncensored Self-Love Coach. So excited that you've joined today. We're going to talk about how to boost your self-confidence and your trust in yourself. So who wants that? Yes. So I want to tell you guys a little story about this because it wasn't that long ago when I had very little self-confidence. So I remember when I was in this business coaching program, and it seemed like everybody in there was taking the coaching and they were implementing it in their lives. And I felt like such a fraud, like such an imposter, because I just couldn't do the simplest things, like send an email to somebody. I'm like, I can't do it. What are they going to think of me? And I held myself back everywhere. And I realized it was like my perfectionist. It's like, if it's not perfect, I can't put it out there. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but it kept me stuck for so long. And it took a lot of years for me. So I'm trying to shortcut that for you guys. It took a lot of years for me to let that go and to allow myself to just be messy and be free and to set challenges for myself. I'll give you an example. The first time I was doing video, I was doing this 2-minute video. I did over 300 takes of 1 2-minute video because I didn't know how to edit, and it had to be perfect or I wouldn't put it out there. And the last thing that I did, I'm like, okay, 1 take, let's see how it goes. And I did 1 take and I messed up and I just laughed because that's my personality. I'm like, well, easy for me to say. And I kept going and I used it and it actually worked. And what I found was that perfectionists or perfection is not relatable. Nobody can relate to it. And we go around comparing our insides, like we feel like we're not enough. At least I did. We compare that to other people's outsides, what they put on Instagram, their beautiful, perfect filtered photos. And we're like, I'm not enough. I don't compare. I don't measure up. And then we allow that to get stuck, for ourselves to get stuck in that. So are you ready to release it? Are you ready to be free from all that crap? Blah. Say yes. Yes. So what you need to know about me, if you're new to me, if we haven't met, is that if you have a deeper calling in your heart and there's something that's been holding you back from stepping fully into your power and your passion, your purpose, just know I've been in your shoes. I've definitely been there and I'm still on the journey. I'm still discovering more about my calling every single day. It keeps becoming clearer and clearer as I take action toward it. The second thing you need to know about me is I consider my greatest superpower to be that of a divine mirror. So what do I mean by that? I mean that I have the ability to see people through the eyes of the divine, or whatever you want to call it, God, universe, spirit, and to really see them as they are, not as they see themselves, but in their spiritual gifts, in their power, on purpose, and to reflect it back to them until they can see it for themselves. So that's what I mean, like divine mirror. And the third thing that you need to know about me is I am all about authenticity, rawness, realness, and deep connection. And by deep connection, I mean connecting deeply to yourself. Like, what is it that you really want? What lights you up? What gets you like juicy? Like what makes you like ready to go and excited? And then also connecting to other people, connecting to spirit, God, universe. And what I found in my life is that if one of those pieces is out of sync, then I don't feel in alignment. And it's really difficult for me to feel confident or to feel like I'm in integrity with what I'm here for. So I teach that. I'm so passionate about it. That's what I teach to my clients. And that's part of what I'm going to share with you tonight. So let's rock and roll. One of the things that I talk about a lot when it comes to confidence is integrity. Now, what do I mean by that? It starts with keeping your word to yourself and to other people. And I love this example because if you're a woman, hopefully you can relate to this. Hopefully I'm not alone. But I used to regularly go to the freezer with a freaking spoon and grab the container of ice cream out. And in my head, I'd say, I'm only going to have how many bites? One bite. Yeah, one bite. So I would go and I'd have a bite. I won't tell you what size it was. It was a bite. All right. I put the container back. I go sit my butt back on the couch. A couple minutes later, I'm like, oh gosh, I really want another bite. And I go get one. And who knows how much I had, right? Like a lot. I should have just gotten a bowl and gotten it over with. But here's the thing, what I found, I did not keep my word to myself. Nobody else knew about it. But guess what? The subconscious mind is like an auditor. It's got a freaking clipboard. And every time you make an agreement, whether it's out loud or in your head, it's like, okay, got it. And then the next time you make an agreement, it's like, hey, remember that last time you said you were going to have just one bite of ice cream? You're so full of crap. You might as well just give up now. You know you're a loser. You're never going to do it. You never keep your word. You can never accomplish anything. And so then we start to sabotage ourselves. And this is all below the surface. Like we have no idea that this is going on. But have you ever felt defeated before you even started? That's the thing. So I will often say this phrase, write this down. You're going to like it. Stalk your thoughts. Yes, stalk your thoughts like you would an ex's Facebook feed. Yeah. Make sure she's not prettier than you. So what do I mean by that? We get to pay attention. Number one, our body is a beautiful lie detector. Okay, so do we feel any tightness in our stomachs, in our chests, in our throats? Do we have a pain? That is an indicator that something's out of alignment. We're feeling an emotion that's not a positive one. And that is due to a thought or a belief that preceded it. Now, when we have these thoughts and beliefs, they also produce chemicals that stimulate a corresponding emotion. And when that happens, that emotion is really a chemical response in your body. And guess what? It produces more corresponding thoughts and it creates this loop and we get stuck in the itty bitty shitty committee, right? Like we get stuck there. So we get to say, okay, mind, subconscious mind, here's what I want you to watch for. And you get to know, like, what are the cons? What are the cons that you believe about yourself? So one of mine is, I'm only going to have one bite. And I know from experience that for many years, that was not true for me. So when I say that to myself now, I'm like, okay, is that really true? Am I ready to commit to that? Am I really only going to have one bite? And if then I'll have a negotiation before I actually eat any. I'm like, okay, do I really only want one bite? Will that satisfy me? And if the answer is yes, I have one bite. And no matter what my mind is throwing at me, it's like, oh, just have another one. No one's looking. I'm like, no, there's a line in the sand for me because I know what follows it. What follows that is a degradation of my self-confidence. It is gone. I don't believe myself. I don't trust myself. So from that point, I can't create anything that I want. So it starts with that one bite of ice cream or the second bite, right? So if I know that that's not going to satisfy me, I'll get a bowl. Like, so what? I would have eaten that much anyway. Just have the bowl and be okay with it. So that's number one, is paying attention to the agreements you're making with yourself when no one's looking or with other people. And I have another example of this. When my kids were little, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, where it is boiling freaking hot in the summer. And when one of my daughters was still in the infant carrier, I was at the grocery store and I got out to the car and I've had her in the seat, like in the car with the air conditioning running. And I got my cart unloaded and I found this little bottle that was like $1 of hot sauce. And I'm like, I had that moment like, shoot, right? Like, yeah, they didn't catch me. I could just take it, but is my integrity worth it? And so I grappled with myself for a minute. I'm like, nope, it's really not, because I know like what will follow that. So I got my daughter out of the car. I shut the car off. I went back in the store. I'm like, I accidentally stole this. They're like, oh, thanks for telling me. And they rang it up, and I, went on my way. And that's happened to me a number of times, to be honest. But I always go back now, and it teaches my subconscious mind that I am trustworthy. I have integrity. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. So that for me is the foundation of confidence. It's the foundation. There's another part of, for me, like with confidence, that has to do with courage and stretching outside of my comfort zone, doing that thing that makes me sweat or makes me nervous or makes me want to puke. And when people ask me, like, would you rather have courage or confidence? It's surprising to some people what my answer is. And it's courage. Because for me, confidence is, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before, right? I've done this before, and I have evidence that I can do it again, and I can do it well and not look stupid. I mean, that's the interior dialogue. But courage is, wow, I've never done this before, and I'm really excited and nervous, and I'm going to do it anyway. It's a choice point. There's a choice to be courageous. And from being courageous, which is acting in the face of fear, I develop confidence. I develop confidence every time I stretch myself. I develop confidence that I can do this thing and not die. I can do this thing, and even if I look stupid, so what? I didn't die. People still love me. People still accept me. Yeah, some people make fun of me, but so what? So what? I love Brené Brown when she talks about people that she takes criticism from. Are they on the field? Are they playing the game, or are they in the stands saying, hey, you suck? Like, who cares what people in the stands are saying? Are they on the field? If they're on the field, then they can give me feedback. Absolutely. So there's something that really has supported me too. And that is, when I look at, if I feel crappy in a certain situation, one of the first things I do is I look at, what story am I believing? What story am I believing? And usually it's backing up, or I'm being right about some belief that I have that I formulated when I was young and my brain wasn't fully formed, right? So it's really interesting. One of mine was, growing up, I used to be spanked and sent to my room, and I was very young, and I was never told, like, you did this thing that was bad or whatever, or wrong, and here's why I'm sending you there. It was like spanked, sent to my room, and it would be hours and hours and hours, and I would just lie there and cry and think, like, what is wrong with me? I must be so defective that my own mother doesn't love me and doesn't want to be around me. And it would be hours. And finally, it would be like time for a meal. And that was the only time I could come out. Like, and then it would be like nothing ever happened. But in those moments, I felt like there must be something so inherently wrong with me. I must be defective and unlovable. And I made up that I was unworthy. So as an adult, I formed these beliefs with my 3-4-year-old mind. As an adult, I carried that. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. And it colored every experience I had. I looked through that lens to prove that I was right, that I was unlovable and unworthy, until I started recognizing that that was my con, my racket. That was the story I was believing. And then I looked like, well, what would I rather believe? What story would you rather believe? And I'm like, well, I would rather believe that I'm lovable. I would rather believe that I'm worthy. So then I started giving myself, I'll call it a stretch. Okay, so this assignment, to look for every single day 10 pieces of evidence that I was lovable and worthy. And I invite you to do this too. Like, what story would you rather believe about yourself? First, look, like, what are you believing that's creating what you have right now? And then what would you rather believe? And I invite you to look for 10 pieces of evidence every single day, because it's like exercising a muscle. And left to its own devices, our mind will go back to pre-programming, like whatever it's been programmed to do before this is what it's going to do. So we get to prime our subconscious minds. We get to tell it what to look for. So I tell my subconscious mind, find me evidence that I'm lovable. Find me evidence that I'm worthy. And every single day, I'm looking for that. And guess what? It's there. And I get to be right about that now. Like, oh my gosh, I made a difference. And it could be something so small, like smiling at a stranger, or giving money to a homeless person, or, looking your child in the eye and giving them your undivided attention, because that's what they want, or giving that to any human being, really, because we all want love and connection. So look for those pieces of evidence every single day. So you're looking, number one, for the stories you've been believing, and you're telling your subconscious mind, okay, watch for that. Watch for when I think I'm unworthy and let me know. And when you find it, you get to celebrate it. You get to be like, yes, I saw it. I caught it. Woo, woo. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm such a piece of crap. There I go, believing I'm unlovable. You get to celebrate that you caught it because you were stalking your thoughts. And then you get to say, okay, find me evidence that I'm lovable. Find me evidence that I'm worthy. And you're going to find it. And let me know, like, write to me. Tell me how that supports you and how it works. Because what I've found with my clients is it's super quick. It is super quick. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had all this evidence around me all the time that I've been ignoring, because it is there. It is ever present. So look for it. So another thing, this is something that you can take on. This is kind of fun. I call it my BAMs, BAMS, my badass moments. So if you take a look at your life, and I segmented mine in like 5-year increments and said, okay, what are my badass moments? Like maybe mine was making new meaning out of the story where I was spanked and sent to my room. So that could be a young badass moment, right? But just look at them throughout your life. Things that you accomplished that you thought might be impossible, or other people thought were impossible. You're like, holy crap, I can't believe I did that, right? Like, wow. And really take time to celebrate them. And I like to go a step further. What ways of being did it take from me to create those? How was I showing up? I bet you were confident. I bet you were trusting. I bet you were courageous. I bet you were like powerful, like in your power. So think about those, and those are all transferable. So when you're coming up to a situation where you're scared, you don't know what to do, you've never been there before, go back to your badass moment list and look through, okay, what will this new situation require of me? What way of being? Will it require courage? Okay, when was a time in my life I was courageous? Like, okay, well, I could do that again then. I was courageous here. And nobody believed in me. I didn't even know if I could do it myself. And I did it. And use that list. And that stuff kind of lowers the volume to those stories like, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. All the crap that goes on in all of our heads. Because we all have it. I mean, if someone pretends they don't, they're full of crap. I'm sorry. Like, it's so funny. Like even billionaires will talk about having imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, if a billionaire has it, like, I don't feel so bad, because we all are human beings. We all have the same things, and there's no difference between us. There's no separation. So that is also another segue. Like, so if there is no separation between us, we all have the not enough. Guess what else we all have? The power, the confidence, the courage that whoever you look up to has, you have it too, because you cannot see anything that's outside of you. So if you see something in Oprah Winfrey, for example, you have exactly those qualities inside you, or you wouldn't be able to see them in her. So it's beautiful. I love how that works. So you get to play with it. So what are you going to play with? Your stories, your word to yourself, like keeping your word no matter what. If you're anything like me, I'm the personality style that likes to dream big, think big, promise big, over promise, under deliver. That used to be my motto. It's not the best in business. But I learned over time to do the opposite, like really only say yes to things that I knew that I could commit to and say no to everything else. So you're going to work on your word, keeping your integrity with yourself and looking at your stories. Like, what are the stories that are going on underneath the surface? What are you telling yourself? What's your flavor of I'm not enough? Mine are I'm not worthy and I'm not lovable. There's you could also do like a fear inventory, like write down all your fears. This is kind of a fun assignment. I love it. I am afraid of, or I am afraid that. And then follow each one of those to the end. So if this happens, then what? I'm afraid that this will happen. And then I'm afraid that this will happen. For me, they all boil down to then I'm not lovable and I'm not worthy. So there's usually two core issues that we all have, and they're all different yet similar. So try that too. Do the fear inventory. And then look at the stories that you want to believe. Collect your 10 pieces of evidence every single day that prove that you already are that. And then do your badass moment list, your BAMs, and what ways of being that required of you. And then you can use those all the time. So anytime you're in a new situation, you're going to pull out your list and say, okay, when have I done this before? All right, I got this. So those are my tips for today. And I wanted to share with you that, oftentimes the women that come to me are suffering from perfectionism. They're suffering from low self-confidence, low self-worth, and they really doubt themselves. And what they really want is to be free. They want to be seen and heard and express themselves and create impact and have lives of fun and adventure. And there's like something holding them back. So if you can relate to that, I'm going to invite you to something that I've created for the viewers of the show. And it's called a free possibilities call with me. And the reason I created that is, I don't know about you, but in my past life, I never felt good enough, or I never felt like I knew enough to do anything. I was waiting to be perfect to make a move. And as you can imagine, I never did anything because I never was perfect, except I beat the crap out of myself for not doing anything. That doesn't really count though. But when I learned to shift and to really accept myself right where I was, I met myself where I was. I'm like, okay, I'm messy. I hate to say it, but I'm imperfect. When I met myself there, I was able to shift and take one imperfect step after another until finally I got momentum and it built. And what I realized is this standard that I had set for myself, this perfectionism, it's unrelatable. No clients were attracted to me when I was trying to be perfect. They're like, well, she's already got it figured out, but how can I relate to her? And it's unattainable. So once I let that go and showed up messy, more clients were attracted to me and I created a greater impact, which is all I really wanted to do anyway. And I want to create that for you. I want to create that freedom for you. So I've created 10 spots on my calendar this week for you to book a call with me. It's called a possibilities call. And we're going to open up possibilities for you and see what a life that lights you up looks like and what's been holding you back. So if I'm talking to you, I invite you to go right now to connectwithkaren.us, connectwithkaren.us, and it'll take you right to my personal calendar. We'll hop on a call within the next few days and we're going to have fun and open up possibilities for you and see what a life that lights you up looks like. So again, it's connectwithkaren.us. And I'm going to leave you with this. When you think about your life and what you have created up until this moment, Is it what you had hoped it would be? Or is it like a totally different version? Because you get to be the uncontested author of your life. So what story do you want to write for the remaining chapters? I thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye.